The next iteration of Deadman mode, Deadman Annihilation, is upon us. And there are a ton of changes coming into this one to make it more casual friendly for all of us non-PKers. So, let's talk about it. Real quick, for those who don't know what Deadman mode is, this game mode sports increased XP rates, increased drop rates, and superpowers called sigils. So basically, it's like leagues, but the catch is PvP is enabled almost anywhere. I'm sure I just lost probably half of you, but hold, it is casual friendly. I know PvP, it's scary. You don't want people to interrupt you while you're playing the game and just take you out. But the first major change that's coming with Annihilation that makes this so casual friendly is the removal of bank keys. The way that this worked in past Deadman modes, if you were out there in the world doing your thing, chopping a tree, and someone came by and killed you, you would lose everything that was on you, and you would also drop a bank key. Now, that bank key would let them loot your 10 most valuable items from your bank, and that is what made it so brutal. So you always had to be really well geared while you were out in the world because you were always risking a lot of stuff, or you had to keep yourself basically broke so that you wouldn't be risking anything because someone would just come along and take you out if you're running around naked in the world, and you could lose your like armadillo setup that was in the bank. So with this change, what that means is you can kind of treat this more like it's the wilderness everywhere. And what I mean by that is you can take your rag gear out if you want. You know, you take a set of monk robes, you take a dragon scimitar, you go run around in the world, and it's not that big of a deal. You do lose everything on you still, so you can't use something like protect item. You don't want to take anything good on you, but the fact that people can't loot your bank anymore means that you can stockpile stuff freely. You can go and you can skill. You can take just, you know, a rune axe and go chop a tree out in the middle of nowhere, and it's just not going to be that big of a deal if you die. So that is a massive, massive change for Deadman mode, and I think this is really the primary piece that is making this so casual friendly. But that's not the only change that's really helping Deadman mode along. This year, they are also changing up the combat brackets. So when we talk about the increased XP rates, they have them all listed out here. We're going down from 5 brackets to 4. So the combat brackets in order are levels 3 to 60, 61 to 80, 81 to 95, and then 96 and above. Now, skilling XP is maxed out at 10x at the start. Combat XP goes up from 10x to 15x and then to 20x once you get into that max combat level bracket. And drop rates as well, they start at 3x and then they slowly move up to 5x as you go up through those brackets. Now, generally speaking, while I'm not going to go super in-depth on the strategy for Deadman mode here, I would recommend as you're going through the brackets, you want to try and sit at the top level of any of these if you're going to stop somewhere. There is an NPC in Lumbridge called Nigel. He can lock all of your XP, so it is possible to get to, say, 60 combat and then not go up anymore. Takes a little bit of planning, but that allows you to sit at one of these brackets. So if you find yourself most comfortable in one of these lower tier brackets because maybe there's not as many clans running around, you can definitely do that to spend more time and kind of make yourself a little bit more safe. In past Deadman modes, I've personally found that the lower end of the brackets tended to be safer. So we're talking maybe these first 2 brackets. But if you want more of like a deep dive on the strategy, definitely let me know in the comments. Next up on the changes, we have Deadman mode chests that can spawn whenever you're killing an NPC that has over 30 HP. So if you're out there, you're doing Slayer, there's always going to be a chance that one of these drops. Now, it is a little bit complicated, so bear with me. When these chests spawn, they're going to spawn with essentially like a guardian NPC that you're going to have to kill before you interact with the chest. Once that NPC is down, it's then going to take you 60 seconds in single combat to open it. That's 60 seconds of you struggling to push the top off uninterrupted, or 30 seconds in a multi-combat area. Any sort of combat will stop you. It'll reset that timer. So these are going to be really difficult to open, especially in highly populated areas. Now, if you can find an NPC on the outskirts of the map with like 30 HP, maybe there's a strategy there for farming that out to try and get these chests. But I digress. You also need to be risking 100k GP in order to open the chest, so you can't be bare bones trying to push this thing open. You're going to have at least something on you. And if you manage to get this thing open, there's a lot of different rewards that you can get. The first is going to be this Trinket of Advanced Weaponry. If you played Deadman mode in the past, you'll be familiar with this. There's several different things that this can turn into. It is a random chance. So you'll get a trinket, you pop the trinket, and then you will get one of the things that you see here. There are these corrupted versions of some different items in-game. And what's nice about these is they have less requirements to wield. So looking at the corrupted Tumikin Shadow as an example, they tend to be a little bit weaker than the normal version, but that also can work in your favor when you're in especially the lower combat brackets. So like this has 75 magic to wield, which is a couple less than the normal Shadow, but it also has slightly less stats, slightly worse scaling. Like the magic damage is doubled rather than tripled. But as the sort of like mid-game weapons, these are good go-tos. And shoot, even in the last Deadman mode tournament, I was using a corrupted scythe for pretty much the entire time. So these are definitely worth a look, but there are some other ways that you can get them besides these chests that we'll talk about a little bit later. The next thing that can drop from these chests is a Trinket of Undead. This allows you to summon a Thrall, and it doesn't have any requirements, so you don't need a magic level for it, you don't need to be on the spellbook. This is just a really nice thing to pick up if you get it. Again, there's some other places where you can get this from, so I'll talk about that here soon. You can also get some of the ranged PvP weapons, so the Morgan's throwing axes, the Morgan's javelins. But the new stuff that is coming with these chests are the Ancient Warrior Armor sets, which are low defense, high offense sets. You may have seen these before if you've spent any time in Bounty Hunter, because they're out there as well. These are more so PvP focused, but there may be, because they're generally more aggressive, there may be some PvM benefits to them as well. But I also think these are likely to be very expensive in Deadman mode, because something tells me these chests are going to be pretty hard to open. But it would be cool if you end up getting a couple of these pieces. So first time we've got these in Deadman mode, it'd be really cool to see what happens with them. And if you're a fan of leagues, I've got some good news for you. The Dog Sword is actually going to be a potential reward from one of these chests. So you can get this in Deadman mode as well. But not only the Dog Sword, but the Thunder Kopesh as well. So we've got two of these League's weapons coming back into the game for Deadman mode. These are all exclusive from the chest. So I don't know, maybe these two will like excite you to actually try and go for one of those chests. I think it's going to be tough to open, but it would be really cool to get a Thunder Kopesh in there. It is slightly nerfed in PvP, but in PvM it's going to function in the same way that it did for Leagues, which is probably good for us because, you know, if you're not a PKer like myself, you probably don't want this thing smacking you as hard as it did in Leagues, because you'll just get completely obliterated. But hopefully with the PvP nerf, it makes it survivable. You basically just have to move away from wherever the person spec'd you. So if you get hit by this, hopefully you're not frozen. You just run a couple tiles away and you'll dodge the lightning. Man, a lot of cool stuff that can come from these chests. And I really wonder if there's like a good corner of the map NPC that has more than 30 HP that's going to be farmed for these. If someone knows of something, let me know. Or maybe don't share it. Keep that one to yourself. Don't want to get PK'd while you're out there. Now, probably one of the biggest changes for this season is the point shop. Now, there is a bit to unpack here, so let me start. Now, I'll talk about how to earn points here in a minute, but there's a couple different features of this shop I want to talk about. The first thing I want to touch on are sigils. So these are those superpowers that I was talking about in the beginning that are very similar to what you get in Leagues. This year, sigils are attached to your account. So you don't get them through drops by killing different monsters or skilling or anything like that. You have to buy them with points in this shop. But the nice thing is you can't lose them either. A lot of the sigils this year are also going to be permanent passive unlocks. So any of the skilling or utility ones, things like Infernal Chef up here, which lets you have a 50% chance of cooking fish as you catch them. Once you buy that sigil, you forever have that power. You don't have to attune the sigil. There's no limit to how many of these you can have. So you can have Infernal Chef, which helps you with the fishing cooking combo. You can have Lithness, which helps you passively get agility XP. A lot of people use this in the recent Deadman mode content creator bash that we saw. So this is going to be really nice because in the past Deadman modes, you could only have 3 sigils and you'd have to swap between skilling and PvP and all of this stuff. So all of the skilling ones, you just buy them once and they're active on your account unless you toggle them off. Now, we are still going to see a limit of 3 combat ones at any time, so you're still going to have to attune those and pick between them. But this should mean that you're doing a lot less bank standing trying to figure out which sigils you want to equip, because all of the skilling ones are already there. So you're only having to think about those combat ones. And the other benefit is, if you're out there skilling in the world, you're not at as much of a disadvantage for fighting back if someone ends up attacking you, because you'll also have those combat ones equipped. So that is a super, super nice change. Now, along with these different sigils that are in here, we're also going to be able to buy quests. Now, this doesn't cover all of the quests in the game, but it does have a lot of the major storylines. So things like Recipe for Disaster, if you want to get Barrow's Gloves quickly, you could just buy that quest line. Maybe you want to go out to the Fremnik Isles, you can buy the Fremnik quest line as well. So there's going to be a lot less questing required in this game mode, and this is also going to make certain quests possible in lower tier brackets where you wouldn't otherwise have the requirements, because all you have to do is get the points to buy the quest. There's not going to be another limitation. So if you don't have all of the requirements for Dragon Slayer 2, but you want access to Vorkath, you can do that by just buying the quest here in the shop. And last, but certainly not least, are the Ruinous Powers. It's been a while since we last saw them, so if you don't remember, it's this prayer book here. These are more aggressive, higher level prayers. So if you want to do a ton of damage, this is going to be a really cool addition. Now, they are going to be tweaking some of these. It essentially boils down to balancing them for PvP. So these are definitely going to be more of like a risk-reward type of thing for folks. Although on the PvM side, it's going to be really good if you have that higher prayer level, because normally damage beats defense. So if you want to blow through Colosseum or something like that, this could be a really good option for you. Now, hopefully that's gotten you excited for buying things with points, but you might be wondering, how do you earn points? Well, it's going to be very similar to what it's been in past years. Basically, doing anything in the game is going to give you points. And let's start with breaches. If you're not familiar with what breaches are, this is a mechanic they added a couple Deadman modes ago, where rifts form in the world at 3 set times during the day. And these will be at a random location that gets announced right as it's happening. Out of these rifts, boss monsters spawn, so you can have things like Jad running around, or Soul running around, or who knows what. And we are going to have some new bosses that weren't out in the last year, but they didn't tell us which, so I don't know. But you could just look at what's released in the last year and a half. There's a good chance that one of those will be running around, so maybe we'll see the giant Doom thing frolicking around out in the world from a breach. That'd be pretty wild. Killing those monsters do give you points, so every bit of damage that you do is worth a point. It does have a cap of 5,000 per day, which might sound like a lot, but once you get things like those corrupted weapons, you're normally dealing quite a lot of damage, so I would expect you can hit this in 1 to 2 breaches during the day, so long as you're not getting PK'd a lot while you're out there. And something that they're doing this year is they're allowing that cap to stack, so if you're not able to play for a day, that 5,000 points will carry over to the next day. So, yeah, if I didn't play on the first day, I could earn 10,000 points on the second day, 15,000 points on the third day, up to a total cap of 75,000 points. So what this means is, if you can't make the times, you don't have to stress about it. There is some leeway here, but I would highly encourage going to the breaches if you're going to play Deadman mode, because you also have a chance at a lot of different rewards. So the trinkets that we were talking about earlier, the advanced weaponry and the trinket of the undead, they come from these breach monsters as well. You also have a chance at PvP weapons, which are really good money, help you with skilling and things like that if you don't end up using them yourself. So it's a really great way to just kind of get points, get some of the rewards from Deadman mode. Breaches are just a big part of this. Now, of the other ways that you can earn points, you can do it through leveling. 5 points on levels 1 to 49, 10 points per level from 50 to 99, and 300 points for a 99. Some skills can be trained in a safe zone as well, so you're going to have a lot of free points in levels. Any new collection log slot is worth 10 points. Scrolls each have their own point value as well as you complete them. The first completion of a scroll is going to give you 5 times the points listed here. So beginner clues, for example, the first one that you complete is going to be worth 25 points, and then everyone after that is going to be worth 5 points up to 100 clues. So what this means is it's definitely worth doing at least one of each clue to get that initial point boost, but don't do more than 100 because you don't get points after that. Achievement diaries, once they're completed, each tier is worth points, combat achievements as well, and then boss kills. And just like the clues, the first boss kill that you get at a boss is worth 5 times the points listed. So like Abyssal Sire is worth 20 points, but the first time that you kill it, it's going to be worth 100 points. So there's a lot of points locked up in bosses. And again, like clues, you stop getting points after the 100th kill. So you can't just go and camp mole 300 times and get points on that. Only go to 100 kills if your goal is points. So there's a lot of ways to earn points. There's a lot of stuff to spend points on. It's going to be a good time. And it's still not all of the changes that we've had for this year. They are still trying to get away from Clan Man mode, and so they are changing how the finale is going to work. At the end of the 3-week time frame, we are going to get a final hour. It almost never lasts an hour, but we're going to get a final hour. Now, normally this is an absolute mess if you're a solo player because clans just run you over. So you don't have friends, you'll lose, and you lose immediately, and it's awful. But this year, what they're going to do is they will teleport everyone out to essentially like a bounty hunter crater area, and you're going to get assigned a team. So everyone's going to be on a team at the start of the final hour. Those teams are going to fight until it gets down to a reduced number of people. They haven't told us an exact threshold, but my guess is it's going to be somewhere between 100 and 200 people. At that point, the teams will be dissolved, and then it's every man for himself. But with this change, what that might mean is a solo player may have a chance, because if clans get split up and their numbers get heavily diminished, you could genuinely be the last man standing without being a part of a clan. So I'm really excited to see how this one plays out. Though, sadly, this year, they're not going to offer any sort of cash prize, which is a bit of a bummer. That's something that they've slowly had to pull away from because of all of the drama that's happened with Deadman mode. I do have a video talking about the history of it if you want to see it, because, man, there's a ton of drama. But unfortunately, no cash prize. But we are getting cosmetics, and I know some people are very hyped, so let's take a look at those too. Now, this is going to work exactly like a League's reward shop. The points that you earn in Deadman mode can be spent on these cosmetics in the main game. Don't worry about spending points to buy things like sigils or the Runescape prayers or quests when you're in Deadman mode. The main game points will be whatever you've earned throughout the Deadman mode season. It's not impacted by you spending in the seasonal shop. So you'll get to do both. Don't sweat it. Now, the first thing on the list is the player-owned house kit. You get a wilderness theme for your player-owned house, which looks pretty cool, pretty creepy. This thing is going to be 15,000 points. Then there is the home teleport animation, a little bit of a lever pull, if you're a fan of like the Edgeville lever. That one is going to be 10,000 points. And then the big one that I think people are really buzzing about is a recolor. Now, if you're worried about how many of these you're going to have to buy, this can be used on the Staff of the Dead, the Bow of Fair-Dennen, and Crystal Armor. We're going to get a dark, wildernessy vibe crystal armor in the game. Pretty cool. The recolor scroll is going to cost 12,000 points. And if you're worried that you need multiple of these scrolls, don't worry. You're only going to need one. One recolor scroll can be used on all of these items. So it's just going to be 12,000 points. But that is pretty much everything that is changing with Deadman Annihilation. Are you excited for it? Are you going to go for the cosmetics? Are you going to be grinding out the points? I know I'll be, at least for a couple of days. But I think it's going to be a pretty good time. But with that, thanks for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.